Hello everybody, this is General Yanis, and today in Death Card Tactics I'm going to be looking at 500 points death card lists, pocket size contagion, updated now with the chapter approved 2022 points, which brought a lot of increase for our Terminators and Boxwalkers, so that might affect some of the lists. I have been giving some examples before. So with no further ado, let's see what type of lists we can build with the new points. So today, the 20th of February, 20 of the 2nd, 2022. As I said, looking at a couple of death card lists for smaller games, 500 points being a beginner-friendly level. A lot of people are asking in the forums and are showing some lists, etc. Taking into account now the point updates from the chapter approved 2022. So I'm again looking at 8 different lists, different detachments, different builds. A very big thanks to my patrons and all of you for supporting the channel and giving nice comments. So let's get started. So background and considerations for 500 point lists. 500 points, of course, is the smallest matched play level. The benefit is, of course, you can get short games playing on a small board, not so much to paint and to prepare as a new player, for example. And I think also it's a good way to learn some basics for new players. So it would be nice to have a little bit of psychic, a little bit of shooting, a little bit of melee in the lists to try something, especially if you're new. Of course, 500 points will never be fully balanced, depending on what your opponent brings, there is not so much room to make a lot of crazy combinations at 500 points. For 500 points, you would need to play a combat patrol mission, which says you need to take 1 patrol detachment and you are on a very tight budget. I've seen a lot of comments to say for 500 points, what do you recommend? Take Mortarion and now 1 Poxwalker, but it's not possible because you can't take such a detachment for a combat patrol mission. So we are stuck with a patrol detachment, and for this means that we need to pick minimum 1 HQ choice and 1 troop choice. And as death card with our codex at the current state, this is quite a big limitation for what more we could bring here. Our cheapest HQ is around 85 points, so quite a lot of the 500 points needs to go in the HQ. Taking, let's say, Demon Prince for 185 points or 150 points is quite a lot of the 500 points. The troops, one of the troops, basically the cheapest is the Cultists, now 50 points, the minimum, or Poxwalkers minimum is 60 points now. But the problem is that those units, they need some other bubonic Astartes infantry to be taken, otherwise it's not a legal detachment, so you would need to bring either Plague Marines or Terminators or Possessed. The Terminators got an increased point hike, so the minimum you can spend on Blightlords is 210 points now, and the death round from 150 to 165, unfortunately. So if you are thinking to bring the Terminators, then you can add, of course, the Poxwalkers there, but yeah, it's not easy for us to take some cheap troops. We need also to spend something in the elite slot to make it possible. The Plague Marines are 105 points minimum. They can fill the 1 troop slot without taking anything else, and the good thing with the Plague Marines is that they have very versatile weapons. You can build melee squads, you can build strong shooting squad, etc., etc. They are not so durable as our Terminators, but they are maybe for 500 points. This is probably the best option to go with Plague Marines in the troop choice. Possessed could also be quite interesting. 120 points. They didn't go up in the elite slot, and then you could maybe bring cultists or Poxwalkers, and they can do some actions, etc. Always important for 500 points. Quite interesting. The cheapest thing that we have in the codex to hold an objective is the Chaos Spawn, only 23 points in the fast attack slot. So that's quite a nice to get a bit more units on the table. For 500 points, if you only have 4 units on the table, you might have problems keeping the backfield or holding something. So the Chaos Spawn adds a little bit versatility to the list. On top of these considerations, some of the units that combine both shooting and melee or psychic can be a good idea for 500 points. So, for example, the Lord of Virulence comes to mind. He has some nice shooting and melee. Typhus, he's very good at melee. He's also a Psyker. The Malignant Plaguecaster is very strong at 500 points. I'll be discussing him shortly. The Mephitic Blightholder is good now, especially with the point drop from 140 to 130. The Plaguefest Scroller, really nice now with the point drops, bringing it down to 150, 160 points. It's possible to bring at 500 points, and it's a very strong unit at these power levels. And as I said, Plague Marines can be very versatile depending on the weapon loadout we give them. Starting with the first example list, and here more to illustrate the Plaguecaster, the Wretched Plaguecaster. So we take here a patrol, and we basically, the Wretched Plague Company, very strong at these power levels because we can upgrade our Malignant Plaguecaster, we can give him the Demon's Favor Relic, and we can use the stratagem before the battle for the Wretched, the Sevenfold Blessing. So basically this allows we know more spells from the Contagion Discipline. He can reroll one psychic test per turn, and then if we are casting with a 7 or more, the Fallout ability scores D3 mortal wounds in addition instead of only 1. So here we could do a Smite and a Curse of the Leper or a Plague Wind, and they can be quite strong, especially with his Fallout. And this type of mortal wounds at this power level can really swing the game to Death Guard's favor. Then in this list, this was before the points, I could have 5 Plague Marines and 3 Death Shroud. Now the Death Shroud are more expensive, so if we want to keep the Death Shroud, for example, you need to remove the special weapons from the Plague Marines. And here I've added the Mephitic Blightholder instead of a 13th Blow Drone with Spitters. I think the Mephitic Blightholder at the same point cost is better here. So this is a decent list, and yeah, the strong point here, of course, this Plaguecaster that can be bodyguarded with a Death Shroud and the Terminators. But again, Death Shroud went up quite a lot in points. So moving on to the next list, which is probably one of my favorites for 500 points and something I've been using quite similar starting list for Crusade. Again, the Malignant Plaguecaster with the Wretched Plague Company with all the upgrades we saw before. 5 Plague Marines with a Flail. The Foul Blightspawn being Arch Contaminator and taking Revolting Stench Vats. Also with a Viscous Death Pathogen to reroll the number of shots with his Flamer. The Flamer is really strong at the 500 points game, and also the range is not so much a hindrance because the board is quite small. He has gone up 15 points, but the Plaguefest Scroller I've been adding has gone down 15 points. So basically I can keep the same list here with no problem, and then the Chaos Spawn as the cheapest way to hold something. So I think this is a very strong list. The Plaguefest Scroller can be really tough to take out, almost impossible with 500 points list, except if you're facing something with a railgun. It can threaten almost anything, and the Foul Blightspawn can do damage on himself, and he can ensure that our Plague Marines fight first. And of course, the Malignant Plaguecaster adds the mortal wounds to the game. So this list could be kept the same because the point crops of the PBC they match the Foul Blightspawn. Looking at Terminus Est, a lot of people like this, let's say the Horde type Death Guard with Terminus Est. I think this is more difficult to pull out. I don't think it's not a super match for 500 points. It's quite difficult to make a Terminus Est list. We need to take some expensive, let's say, Bibonica starters to bring the Poxwalkers. In this example, 5 Blightlords, they have gone up in cost now. Reaper, Autocannon, and Flail, give them the Plague Skull of Glothilla Relic. This can, of course, also go in some of the other lists that I've been showing you. Adding a bit of mortal wounds in 500 points can really help. A Chaos Spawn here, but now the Poxwalkers, before I could have, let's say, 20 Poxwalkers here, but now it's only 15 Poxwalkers. This could still work, but it's not very easy to make a Horde type list at 500 points. It's difficult to overwhelm the opponent, but this could also, if you like the infantry heavy Typhus lore type of list, this could be a nice list to still put on the 500 points table. Looking at some example now, if for example you're a new player and you only have the Combat Patrol box, so what could you build? If you only have the Combat Patrol box, then you can of course, you have Typhus as the HQ. Then you have 7. You can take 7 Plague Marines with a flail and a cleaver. You can take some Poxwalkers. Instead of all the 20, you can take, let's say, 17. You have a lot in this box anyway. And then in the elite slot, you can take the Biologus Putrefier. So here, using maybe the Ferryman could be nice in this Plague Company, because we can use the strat to make one of the auras of the Biologus Putrefier longer. Here I also giving him the Fugaris Helm to have a larger impact for his advanced grenades. So here the Plague Marines are stronger in melee, but they can do a lot of damage with their grenades if we use the grenade stratagem and be close to the Biologus Putrefier. Alternatively, we can also use Harbingers, making Typhus the warlord, and then we can use the stratagems for the Poxwalkers to make more mortal wounds. So this is something that you could also have fun with on the tabletop, and Typhus is a good model, as I said, both a psyker and good in melee, etc. So if you have only the Death Guard Battle Force, the Chrostmas Box, you could, I was thinking, what type of list could you do possibly there? Of course, there is no dedicated HQ in this box, but the idea is you can kit bash at least the champion model, maybe to pass as a Chaos Lord. He has the Sassy Nurgle as well. So in this case, the Chaos Lord for 85 points can be your Warlord, the HQ, and then you can take 5 Plague Marines, 1 with a flail and 1 with a Blight Launcher, and then you could have 2 Demon Engines, the Mephitic Blight Hauler, and then a Plaguebear Scroller with Entropy and Slugger. So that could be a list. You can make it the Poxmongers because you have 2 vehicles. So the Chaos Lord could have the Ironclad Furnace Relic to give 4+ invul, for example, if he stays back with a Plaguebear Scroller or something like that. Alternative list could be that you have the Spitters instead, so it's only 150 points. Then you could play the Plaguebear Scroller more aggressively, being a close combat, and you can use the stratagem from the Poxmongers to shoot to shoot the mortar into engagement range, and you can also add some extra weapons for the Plague Marines. Another example list here, taking a Tallyman for giving you more command points in these low level battles. You don't have so many command points to start with. So for example, the HQ could be a Lord of Contagion or a Lord of Virulence for 120 points. And then in the HQ, you can have some cultists, because here we are using a 5-man unit of Blightlord Terminators. It's 220 points now. We're giving one the Reaper Autocannon and the Flail. You could also take the Blight Launcher. Reaper Autocannon is better against enemies with 1 wound or enemies that have Disgusting Resilience type of rules, as more and more armies are getting now. The cultist as the cheapest way to get some troops here, 50 points, and they can still do actions, but they don't have objective secure. The Tallyman with the Tollkeeper Relic and being Arch Contaminator, and the Warlord, the Tollkeeper Relic would give exploding 6s, and you will be also giving +1 to hit, for example, for this blob of Terminators. And then Chaos Spawn also you have room for 1 Chaos Spawn in this list, and this could also be inexorables. You can get hopefully some AP on the target with with a Ferric Blight Contagion. Another example here, if you want to bring a Contemptor, now the Contemptor of course is much more expensive. So in this case we have a Contemptor with 2 Volkites and the missile launcher. So now this is 195 points, before it was 175 points. And here the Tallyman with the Tollkeeper Relic is needed to get exploding 6s on the many shots with the Volkites. A Chaos Lord is the cheapest way to give reroll 1s to the Contemptor. He takes also the Ferric Blight trait from Inexorable, so hopefully you can get AP on your shots. And then 5 Plague Marines with a Flail and a Blight Launcher, and then a Chaos Spawn. That could also work as a decent list with 1 very strong shooter unit, but you're investing a lot in this for this Contemptor. And finally, one last example here. So with chapter approved 2022, more and more geared towards actions to score points, etc. So it could be, could we get an infantry heavy list that can do a lot of actions? So in this case, we have a Malignant Plaguecaster as the HQ, and then we have 5 Plague Marines with 1 Blight Launcher here, 10 Cultists as the cheapest HQ we can bring, and then 2 units of 5 Possessed. So these are probably the cheapest patrol where you can do, you have four minimum size units here that all can do actions, and the Possessed are a bit faster than the Plague Marines. They can move 7 inches. Also the Poxwalkers, they cannot do actions, but the Cultists can do actions. They are not as durable. You can keep them in the back. Maybe the Possessed go forward to get into melee, and then you keep the Plaguecaster with Plague Marines somewhere in the mid board. So this is not a very heavy shooty list, but you have to get the Possessed close, and you can do some actions and retrieve data, etc. And then probably for the Plaguecaster, you could take a Wretched Patrol here to upgrade the Plaguecaster for mortal wounds. He can carry some spells to buff the infantry, give them more toughness and saves, etc. So summary and final thoughts. 500 points, quite small level to try many. It's not, you cannot try a lot of synergies and a lot of buffs, but it's a good way to start as a beginner. The list, if we want to bring a lot of Terminators and Poxwalkers, are tougher now to bring with the new points. The Death Shroud, which was quite decent to take for 150 points, is now 165 points, more difficult to find room, and Poxwalkers also a bit more expensive. The Plagueburst Crawler, easier to bring now, instead of 175 points, only 160 points, and it's really strong at 500 points level. Not so easy to take out Toughness 8 vehicle at this power level. And also the Mephitic Blightholder is more useful now, 130 points, cheaper now than, for example, a 30 Blow Drone with a mower. And it can add more shooting, and it's also not super bad in melee. The Cultist could be interesting going forward, and also maybe with Possessed, so you can do more actions. Maybe in the 500 points games there's not so much need for actions, but maybe this could be a trend for Death Guard to have more action-oriented infantry. And of course the Plague Marines, in these 500 points games, I think the Plague Marines are a strong troop choice, and they can become with choosing different weapons, you can mold them to what you want to have, and they are more and more interesting, I guess, for these lower power levels and point levels. But probably the most important is to have fun with the smaller games, and still I hope you find some inspiration here to build a list that fits your needs. So with these words, this concludes the video. What do you think about this list, and have you played some 500 points games now with the new rules and the new points? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you like this video, please press like and subscribe to my channel, helping the channel grow. And a very big thanks, as always, to my patrons that make this possible for me continuing to do these efforts to bring. And here is the link if you want to support my efforts there. So with these words, Jan Royanis is signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye-bye.